Welcome to the Herkimer Central School District Instructional Technology Support, and today we are talking about creating Google Maps and how you can create virtual tours and even using Google Earth for the same feature, which adds in the wonderful ability to do three-dimensional flyovers, which is kind of cool. So really quickly, we're going to talk today about starting your own Google Map, setting a marker, grouping those markers, adding images, and adding videos. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up a new tab here. And you can go to Google Maps. It's a little harder to get there. You have a couple extra things to start making a map when you do it this way. But you can just go to My Maps and Google. And when you type that in, you'll see it takes you actually to Google My Maps. And we're going to go ahead and click on that. And it's going to bring us to, it might bring you to a screen that asks you to pull up something and sign in or not, but otherwise you get right here, which is your map area. And if you haven't made anything, this will be blank, as you have a few maps that are just playing around with some things. Let's just create a new map together. And we're going to stick with something very basic. And probably let's just stick to Herkimer, maybe, because everybody knows Herkimer, that's where we are. So I can zoom in and try and find Herkimer, or if I want, I can actually just type something in Herkimer that I know is there, and we'll start out with something easy like the high school. And if I type that, it actually brings me right to the Herkimer High School. And we can, from this, we can add this to our map, or if we want to put the location in a more specific place, let's say Google's image search isn't directly where we want it to be, we can close this out, and I'm going to hit this X over here. And I'm going to come over to this little marker button, and I'm going to add a marker. And let's say I will know that I want to use the front door of the high school, and I can do that. And we'll call it Herkimer High School. Actually, junior, senior high school, isn't it? Senior high school. Here we can put in some information about maybe when it was formed, student base, whatever you're doing for your class, whatever it's going to make it, whatever purposes you are doing. And over here in this little camera icon, we can click on this and we can upload photos from our device. We can select the website of an image that we might know. We may have in our Google pictures, we might have a picture we might want to use. We can use Google Drive to search our drive for something. What's also nice is we can use Google image search for an image that's already in the database. And look at that, there's a nice image of the school, and we can select that. And it says an error loading the image. That could be a couple reasons. Either sometimes that is incompatible with whatever you're using, whether it's not licensed for that or whatnot. Let's see if that one will come in. Oh, there we go. All right, so now we got a picture of the high school in here. If we wanted to add more, we can go to this little plus button. And this time I'm going to go up here and I'm going to go to a YouTube search and see if there's anything about Herkimer High School on here. And we got pep rallies, Creek at Herkimer High School, whatever we want, we can select that. And now we've got, you can see 2 of 2 is shown up. We got the Creek at Herkimer High School. We've got a picture of the high school, and we can save that. Now, this little marker is a generic marker, so perhaps we don't want that. So if we go back, we can change the style of our marker, and we can obviously change it to green because it's Herkimer. Or we can go to more icons and change it from the generic to changing it to something that might be more fitting of education. And I believe somewhere in here they have a graduation cap. If you look through. Let's see if we have a school. Graduation. Regardless, if you look through, there's actually a bunch of different things in here. And like I said, I know that there is a graduation cap. Once you find the marker you want, it actually goes into your commonly used ones or most recently used. And they're a lot easier to find once you find them in that direction. You can also do a custom icon if you wanted to make a custom icon, which would be a really neat art project, is to create a custom icon. And then you will have your own custom look to whatever you are doing. I swear the graduation cap was right up in here. Anyway, let's just pick a bowling ball or a music note. Okay. And then you can see down here other icons. So there's the popular icons. And then as you start to use some icons, they start to appear here. And if we ever need to change anything, we can always go back and edit it. We can add more images and photos here. We can do directions to here if we're going to be doing something later on. And then if you don't like that, you can always delete it. In my layers, we can set it so we can see only certain layers. So if I zoom out and I unclick this layer, it disappears. I bring it back in, it can show back up. You can customize the appearance of layers. So if we stay within Herkimer High, within whatever this untitled layer, which we'll call schools, we can do individual styles. We can group them by if they're all the uniform style. We can do a sequence of numbers. So if you were doing, like, say, a tour and you wanted to do like a 1, 2, 3, 4, you can also do it by individual styles, name and description. So we'll just do universal styles, and so you can see what happens is it pushes them all under here, so you can't see them that way. And now let's go and add in Herkimer Elementary School. And again, I don't want to have that dot. We're going to put this one in. We're going to put in our own custom marker. All right, and then if we would do the same thing for photos, if we wanted to search for elementary photos, they pop in, we can save. Again, we want to change our style, and we're going to make it the same green, and we're going to stick with the same icon. And there we go. So now we've got our map that is of Herkimer, and it's got the 2 schools. We can also add layers in here. So let's say we wanted to do something where we're showing the schools in Herkimer, and then we want to show something else in Herkimer. So like maybe restaurants or food in general. We can put a food layer in here. Now, you'll see that there's this blue line here. This means that if I add a marker, it's going to go under the food tab. If I place it up here, it's going to be under the schools tab. So if I went to, say, Arby's and I wanted to do a food tab, I have to click on this marker, and then when I add a marker, it's going to add it under here under the food tab. The one thing that they don't really let you do is they don't let you move around your tabs. If you oops, sorry, I guess that, there you go. If you click on it and hold and drag, it'll allow you to switch things. So if you accidentally make a mistake, and let's say I had accidentally put this point, it's not great in this computer. If I put this point up in schools and I was like, oh, you know what, I need that to be down here in food, I can do that by just clicking and dragging. So, and now the nice part about that is if I'm doing a project or my students are doing a project and they're showing different aspects about culture or something along those lines, and I want to show only schools, I can click that off. The Arby's tab disappears. Or I can show the food tabs and click the schools tab and the schools disappear. I can also choose what I want to see for my base map. Right now I've got on just the regular map. I can go to more of a Google Earth look, which is a satellite view. We can also see less topographic features and less, or this is the topographic feature or topographic map. So perhaps if you're doing something on slopes or You want to figure out how steep maybe the hill is going up to Herkimer Community College. You can use a topographic map for that as well as several others, simple atlases, what other things. You do have the options of, let's turn this to Herkimer. I always want mirror maps. You do have the option of turning off some of these features as well, and that's helpful, especially if you're doing a project and want to show certain things off. Let's turn our schools back on here. They also have some other features here. You can draw a line. So let's say if I wanted to do a driving route or a biking route or a walking route, I can do that, or just a simple line or shape. So if I'm doing something with, say, geometry and I wanted to add maybe a line here, it'll allow me to draw some lines. And maybe we were drawing something like how far, whatever this polygon might represent, we could represent, like, how many buildings are in it. Maybe we want to estimate how many houses were in Herkimer, and we could figure out the area of this, count up the houses inside this small area, and then just estimate based on how many houses are in that box. I know I'm just guessing here. Same thing works for, let's delete that. Same thing works for if we were to do a driving route and say we wanted to go from the Herkimer High School to the Herkimer Elementary School. We could do that, and it'll give you the driving route. You want to go from, go back, add a driving route. We want to go from, we want to go from one place to another. Let's get that. There we go. Sorry about that. We'll delete that later. All right, so we want to add a driving route. We can go from point A to point B, and it'll give you a driving route, and it gives you can add destinations in between, and it'll help you calculate such things as distances and times, estimate times, much like a normal Google route. This you can add directions in, same thing. It's basically the same thing as doing a driving route. That's why it gives you the option to put in some layers here, as much as a regular ruler. So if you want to know how far certain distances were, we could do that, and it'll roughly give you an estimation of your rulers. Now, rulers don't actually stay on there after a while. They disappear. If I click off, they're going to disappear. But really helpful if you're doing something finding out gradients and you need a quick measurement of a distance over top of a hill. You can do that, and it'll give you that. Click once to start it. A double click ends it, and it stays. Click it off it again, it'll disappear. Or if I click once, move, click, 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 it'll keep going until I've gotten all the points that I want, drawing a destination. And everything, just like in a Google Drive or a Google Doc, everything gets saved as you work. So once I delete that, you can see all changes are saved in my drive, and it saves in my Herkimer tour. You can see here I also have I've also made a little Florida tour map. Just if I want to see Magic Kingdom, and I've got a bunch of videos and photos of the Magic Kingdom. That's the Walt Disney World parks. And if I want to do one for Universal Studios, here's the Magical World of Harry Potter. You can see how far apart they are. You can do a quick directions from, I put in directions from Magical World of Harry Potter to Magic Kingdom, and so on and so forth. Now, everything that we're doing here, you can also do on Google Earth. And the advantage of doing it on Google Earth is that you'll notice when you click a point of interest, there's this little paper plane diagram. And what that does is it allows you to do a three-dimensional flyover and a three-dimensional look at the point or point of interest that you are looking at. And you get a little bit more of an idea of what you're looking at. So if you're really doing like a tour of a place or having kids create their own tours, this is really cool because now we've got, now we have the ability to do flyovers, or we can use the street view option by dragging this little guy here into an area that is actually photographed, and you can go right into your street view of Harry Potter, and you can look around and get a little bit more an idea of what some of these things are looking at. And at any point, we can go back and look at the two-dimensional version. Or we can click out that and exit street view, and it brings us right back to where we are. So especially when you're doing a presentation, you can actually have these automated presentation, much like if you were to do a PowerPoint presentation, and it'll go from one slide to the next, and you can pre-record these slides and these presentations, so it'll zoom you through and take you off and really give people the experience. Ooh, what are they building here? Of everything that's going on in the area that you're trying to present. So for example, if you play high school football here and you want to know what it looks like to play high school football, but look in your backyard and see Universal Studios, you'll notice that, oh my, you don't even really notice that Universal Studios is there, despite the fact you're right across the street. And sometimes this helps out, gives kids a little bit more wow factor, especially when you're presenting historical places or you're doing any sort of presentation of interesting places or historical information on in a class, or if you're doing a tour of something or any of those lines. It's just know that everything you can do in Google Maps, you can do in Google Earth as well, just with more options, more flyovers, more three-dimensional views, and such. Working on figuring out that there is a way to take this data and you can export it as a KLM file. And if you export it as a KLM file, you can take that information and put it into Google Earth. So if you build a map, you can import your file from a new project. You can import your KLM file, and it should pop it into Google Maps for you. There you go. So there's those directions, and now it's everything that I built in Google Maps is brought into Google Earth, and now I've got everything I created, and we've been able to import it into Google Earth. So that's a real quick information on Google Maps. I'm going to learn a little bit more about Google Earth and bring some of those stuff to you if anybody's interested in that. And thanks for tuning in today.